Hey friends. Haven't done one of these from the piano in a while, but something was calling to me today. So I was reflecting a bit on, well, I guess it started with my good family friend who's going through a kind of medical issue. It's not sure how it's going to turn out yet. And I mentioned if you haven't seen my post from yesterday, I spoke a little bit about how that reverberated in me, what that sort of sounded in me as a kind of creating a context of recognizing that life is temporary and putting things in a kind of perspective. But one of the things that Alan always emphasized in his own thinking and in his own teaching is leaving room for doubt. And by this, what I take it to mean is an ongoing listening, an ongoing willingness to pry open the various lids of our certainties and see what's there. See what else might be there. I don't know if that's the best image in the world, but I think you get the idea. There's a kind of, one of Alan's biggest statements, certainly in the last few years, has been, been speaking about fundamentalism and how fundamentalism is nobody has a monopoly on fundamentalism. You can be a religious fundamentalist, you can be a scientific fundamentalist, you can be just about any kind of fundamentalist you want. If you take your domain of experience to be somehow primary or somehow more worthy of making truth claims than another domain of experience. You could be a creative fundamentalist. That'd be fun. Those are fun folks to hang out with. So in other words, there's a kind of, when Alan talks about leaving room for doubt, what I think he's saying is, let's assume that no matter how much we know, no matter how much knowledge we've accumulated, no matter how many skills we've acquired or awards we've won, no matter how proficient and excellent we are in whatever our thing is, let's assume that, first of all, there are other domains of inquiry that may be very relevant to the conscious evolution of life, but that may not feel relevant to us just because of our own kind of background. We're all going to have prejudices based on what we see as being important. And secondarily, let's admit that our own perspective, our own view of life is always inherently limited and is therefore never There's no sort of finally privileged place from which we can proclaim the truth, the one and only truth. And the reason this is showing up for me, I think, is I see something in myself from time to time that's kind of well, I don't know how to put it. It's unflattering, and it's a tendency to perceive myself, like before thought, to perceive my perspective as being somehow right, somehow the right one, the right way to see things. And more and more, I keep kind of bumping into, or it seems like it happens faster and faster recently, that I get a corrective dose of reality from the universe. I get shown that my perspective is not necessarily wrong, but not as right as I thought it was, and not as all-encompassing as I thought it was. It's becoming easier for me, for the walls of my own kind of like perspective to become permeable and to receive new information. Part of this happens from working with my 5-year-old daughter every day, almost 5. She's not quite 5. Part of it is just simply the kind of daily joys and struggles of family life that reveal that in one moment I have a firm conviction, I have a strong kind of very clear and defined sense of this is what is right here, and then like 3 minutes later I'm like, the rabbit hole goes deeper than I thought. All these rabbit holes go deeper than I thought. And so I think part of me is just trying to receive that, because I'm somebody who, on the philosophical level, I absolutely wholeheartedly, I just want to shout hallelujah as I read Alan's book, The Scandal of God. By the way, it's available on Audible. You should check it out. Alan Jones, The Scandal of God. Check it out. I read that, or I listen to it, and it's this amazing. I just agree with every word. I agree with every nuance of what he's saying. But of course, I'm reading a book, and it's talking about issues and perspectives and ways of being in dialogue that they're being described on a kind of intellectual, philosophical level. But me trying to get my daughter dressed in the morning is not a philosophical exercise. It is a practical, time-bound, now moment experience. And it's in those moments that my perspective operates. My perspective may operate on the intellectual level, and that's great. And it's actually, I think it's relatively important and useful to cultivate our intellectual capacity to understand how our perspective might be working, and to just be able to get a little bit of awareness regarding how we hold our views, how we how we consider, engaging with someone else, or having a dialogue about what we believe, what we think, how we want, what we believe would be a good kind of conversation to pursue, right? All that stuff is important. But all of the development in the world on that level really doesn't take you one step forward when you're trying to get a toddler dressed in the morning. Not really a toddler anymore. Stop calling her that. She's almost 5. A young person dressed in the morning. Now my perspective is just what it is, and the way that I hold it, and the way that I communicate with it, has a completely different. It's almost like 2 different realities. It's almost like, one reality exists in a kind of bubble intellectual domain, and the other one exists right now. The other one is active, happening right now. And so as I observe myself again and again and again, sort of having a certain kind of push, a certain tendency to want to just assume that I'm right, or that I know, and then moments later I have to go, oh, okay, let me just back up off of what I thought a moment ago and see what's really happening here. The more that happens to me, the more I'm appreciating a kind of active gentleness, like active gentleness of perspective. It's a mouthful, but like that's what I'm taking away. Be truly gentle. Hold my perspective with a certain amount of care all the time. So yeah, that's what showed up today. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate you. I'll see you very soon.